Time buckets. A certain king had twin sons, and even though one of them had an 8-minute advantage, he always considered them to have an equal chance at inheriting his throne whenever that day may come. With that in mind, their education always centered around kingdom business. As both young men began to mature, the king decided to begin the selection process. "Over the course of this next year, I will name one of you as my successor," the king stated. "You each will have complete control over the choice that I will make," the king added mysteriously, "because my choice will be based solely on which one of you cares the most about this kingdom." Thrilled to finally be able to secure his birthright, the 8-minute older prince asked, "But how will I be able to show you my love for this kingdom?" "Oh, that's my favorite part," chuckled the king. "You are familiar, no doubt, with the Idumath people in the northern islands? Well, they can't dance to save their lives, and I would never count on them to cook me a meal. But one thing they do better than any other people on earth, math," exulted the king. "I will assign 2 Idumath people to follow you, discreetly, of course, wherever you go for this next year. They will carefully keep track of what you're doing or even thinking about and convert those thoughts and actions into colored balls in time buckets. Then at the end of the day, the buckets will serve as a visual record of that day. For every kingdom thought or action, a purple ball will be added to your bucket, an orange ball for every thought or action about yourself, and all other thoughts and actions will be assigned a white ball. Any questions?" the king concluded. The 8-minute younger prince half raised his hand. "How will they know what we're thinking?" "Ah, yes, excellent question. They'll look at your actions. It's been proven that one's actions almost always reveal what they've been thinking about." With that, the princes were dismissed along with their Idumath escorts. First stop for Younger was the cafeteria, where he picked up a Royal Crown Cola and sat down to ponder everything he'd just heard. He could almost feel the orange ball being drawn from the pocket of one of his discreet new nannies. Older went for a drive to clear his head. His love for that shiny new Corvette was costing him plenty of orange balls right now, but he had to figure out a way to ensure his selection. "Purple," he spoke over and over to himself. "How can I train myself to think purple?" So he stopped in at his favorite jewelry store and picked himself up a new Breitling Chronomat watch, one that he could set the alarm hourly to remind him to think something about the kingdom. Even at night, he wanted to build up so many more purple balls than his brother that he could eventually relax and get back to normal. 1 year! How hard could this be, with his entire future riding on it? "You can do this," he yelled at himself. Younger tried the alarm thing too, but it didn't last. Every time it went off, he couldn't really think of anything to think or do, so he ended up just turning it off. He tried appointments on his phone, pocket reminders, and rooms full of sticky notes, all to no avail. The more he tried to remind himself, the more he resented the reminders. "What's the use?" Younger thought to himself. "Even if I somehow win this thing, there'll be a legal challenge. My brother won't give up that easily." Older, meanwhile, crafted a routine where every hour of every day, when the alarm went off, he'd intentionally stop whatever he was doing and begin to say good things about his father and the kingdom. "This'll guarantee me at least 16 purple balls a day," thought the older. Whenever possible, he'd work in photo ops of himself at popular spots, hoping for a little extra credit. He and his vet certainly became an often seen sight in the cities. Younger had no strategy. Should he mark it hard to try to beat his brother, risking a legal overturn and probable banishment? Or concede to his brother's conniving and simply stay out of sight till the end of the year? As he was sorting through his thoughts, someone cut right in front of him and careened into the ditch. The prince immediately hopped out, running to help the driver out of her ditched Dodge. "I'm so sorry," she shrieked as he pulled her out to safety. "My gas pedal stuck and I just lost control." "Don't worry, just stay calm," the prince comforted her. "I'm totally fine. I just hope your car isn't too badly damaged." When the police arrived with a tow truck, he made sure she was okay and went on his way again. 8 minutes older, who now just refers to himself as 8, was really getting good at the hourly routine. He devised rituals that others could join him in, with songs written that could be played during those kingdom times. But 16 times a day became difficult, so he settled it down to 6 times, plus 2 extra hours per week that were actually televised, when he'd say the same words and play the same songs in the same order. And that's pretty well how the rest of the year played out. 8 running the rituals, and Younger sticking to the back roads. It wasn't long before 8 brought in guest hosts for his weekly broadcasts. After all, he had an active social life to maintain, and he figured he was so far out in front of his brother that he could kind of coast the rest of the way. He also built several kingdom centers for the weekly meetings. Attendance became more or less mandatory, especially for people who got any kind of charity from the king. Younger, meanwhile, found an email about a cool little app called Near Me, which suggested the best coffee spots and small town downtown diners and other events in the kingdom. So he'd simply look for suggestions and find himself meeting locals wherever he went. Occasionally, he found himself helping load bags of feed into the back of a pickup, or painting a fence, or even pouring coffee at a diner during rush hour. Often he'd get asked questions about his dad and his brother, who was showing up more and more on TV. He loved to talk about his dad, but he always backed out of talking about his brother. The momentum of the contest was kind of waning. 8 had perfected the structure of his kingdom centers to the point that he himself hadn't been to one in months. He was back into full-time partying with confidence that the purple balls were piling up to his account. And Younger had faded further into the background, assuming that he never had a chance to win anyway. Suddenly, a new feature showed up on Near Me. A royal coach icon showed whenever the king was moving about the country. So, since he missed his dad, Younger made it a point to join him at some of the places he planned to be. They ended up sharing family stories together with locals at a civic barbecue and throwing darts at some area pubs, and even holding children in their laps at ice cream socials. It was such a special time that Younger forgot about the contest completely. Until at last the contest came to the final day, and that day of reckoning called for the beckoning back of the twins. Younger was there right on time, since he'd just spent the previous night in the palace. 8 took a little longer to locate, and was eventually found relaxing on one of the resort islands to the south. An hour's helicopter ride brought him straight to the king's front lawn. 8 jumped off the copter and joined his brother and his dad for some well-deserved pats on the back that he was sure were coming his way. The 3 royals headed into the palace in the lead of a large crowd, including national media coverage, for a very special announcement. The king welcomed his sons and his audience warmly and briefly recapped the purpose and terms of the contest that had just ended. "Boys," the king began, "I told you in the beginning that the results of this contest were completely up to you, and so they are." he stated quite dramatically. Whichever of you has accumulated the most purple balls in his buckets by his thoughts or acts towards this kingdom will indeed be named king as my successor. Now, for the chronicles of my son born 8 minutes earlier, open ballroom number 1, ordered the king. See, 365 buckets full of balls take up a lot of room, so it was decided early on to use a large special room for a ballroom for each of the boys. And these rooms were known as ballrooms ever since. And what a sight it was to see! From the beginning, buckets were brought forward and poured into a huge clear box for the final reveal. And 8's early buckets were solidly purple. Fist bumps flew as bucket after bucket chronicled his early efforts to think something good about the kingdom every hour of every day. With only the occasional orange-colored Corvette ride, it looked like a landslide victory for 8. But then some orange and white began to show. After just a few months, his immediate departures from kingdom times almost always meant a party and the selfish thoughts that almost always pair with parties. So the purple all but disappeared into a sea of orange and white. "Wait," protested 8. "Those should all still be purple. I should get credit for everything that happened as a result of what I started." The king called on the chief of Idamath for this very important rules clarification. While it is true that many acts of praise resulted from you appointing times to be used for praise, you yourself only get credit for the times that you yourself were thinking or acting in praise of the kingdom. By hurrying off to party, your actions proved that kingdom praise was not on your mind. 8 quickly consulted the legal team that he had quietly brought in, and they had to agree with the Idamath. "Oh no," regretted 8, because he, better than anyone, knew what the future buckets would reveal. And he was correct. Only in autumn had so much orange been seen in one place in the kingdom, as bucket after bucket revealed 8's selfish desires to create kingdom praise just for the benefit of his bucket account. But wait, thought 8, I might still win based on the early purple. After all, my brother did nothing to further his own cause. He conceded the contest almost from the beginning. And he was not wrong. Younger felt horrible as he saw how easily just a little effort on his part could have sewn this thing up. But mostly he felt sorry for his brother and a little embarrassed for his dad at the very unexpected results of the contest. "And now," announced the king, "ballroom number 2 to reveal the thoughts and actions of my younger son." Younger hid his face from the inevitable blast of orange, or at least a blizzard of white, to show early admission of defeat. This would no doubt be even more embarrassing to his dad, in that at least 8 tried to win. But the quiet whispers of the crowd didn't indicate the crushing embarrassment that Younger expected. And he was further confused when he raised his gaze to glimpse more purple than he'd ever seen in his life. Bucket after purple bucket flowed into the clear plastic box, month after month actually getting more purple as they went on, till finally the last 3 buckets showing absolutely nothing but more royal purple. "How is this possible?" the twins twinned. "I gave up early," Younger objected. "He did nothing," complained 8. The king waited till the din died down a bit before referring to the Idamath referee. "While your early actions were more white than purple, your decisions to not compete began to build into a genuine care that the succession be a peaceful process, even if that meant you would have no chance. These pre-purple thoughts led to solid purple acts of kindness in diverse corners of the kingdom as you demonstrated your love and care for the people. And when the king developed the Near Me app, wait, what? Interrupted Younger. You made that app? He asked the king. Of course I did, chuckled the king. What, you thought near me meant like restaurants near me? No, it was meant to bring us together more. You know, like, come on over near me. I miss you, son. Younger's head was swimming with how much he had missed along the way, and 8 was violently vehement. So you gave him every advantage to win. Not only private invitations to join you around the country, but daily reminders to get out and meet people in the kingdom that would all but seal his victory? Absolutely outrageous, he loudly protested as he again gathered his legal team. You should check your email, the Idamath chief calmly suggested to the fuming 8. What? 8 hollered back in anger. And your texts, the chief continued. You'll see that for every notice and invitation that His Majesty sent your brother, he sent you 2. He wanted you both to discover the beauty of this kingdom, but he wanted to be doubly fair to you since you were, in fact, born those 8 minutes earlier. But you ignored him for a year, building praise factories that were actually intended for your own praises. The chief's assessment was as true as it was brutal, and 8 knew it. You're completely correct, he agreed, as he humbly bowed in apology to his father. Please forgive me, Dad. I was such a fool. Of course I forgive you, son, the king comforted while lifting his son to his feet with a hug. And now, still hugging his eldest, he shouted, I give you your king as my successor. And the Idamath chief raised Younger's arms in unlikely yet jubilant victory, to the wild applause, appreciation, and deep affection of the whole kingdom.